opening the South Maui Community Plan Advisory Committee meeting at 5:30 p.m. And can we start with a roll call?
Good evening, everyone. Chair Rob Weltman. Okay. Vice Chair Daniel Kanahele. President. Tova Callender. Everett Dowling. Not here yet. Okay. Lehuanani Huddleston Hafoka. Okay. Vernon Kalanikau. Okay. Randall Leach. Here. Mike Moran. Cody Nemeth. Okay. Gary Passon. Yep. Okay. Kyoki Feltzer. Yep. Jennifer Sullivan. And Brian Ward. So everyone's here except for Everett Dowling.
Everett is still expected. Lina mai na lalo ke kumike o lalo o kai ulo no ka papa ho lalo na Maui hama. Avelina mai no ho e ka po e o ke ena ho lalo ke kalana o Maui. Amika la ho lalo o Maui nei. E o pa ata ko i ke ia i ka papa ho lala a pau. Awai ho ia papa ho lala i ka aha kalana o Maui nei. So this is a recessed meeting. And we have the same agenda today as on October 23rd. And that means there will be no additional public testimony. Our goal for today is to adopt the plan and submit it to the Maui County Council as per the assignment we took on 13 months ago. So I think that last time we did not assign someone to read the vision statement this time, but Randall has graciously offered to do so if someone just puts it up on the screen for us.
Testing. Okay. Before I read the vision statement, I just wanted to thank our chair and vice chair, Rob and Daniel. Job well done guiding us through this process. So thank you. All in favor? Okay. The South Maui vision. South Maui's beaches, coastal waters, and wetlands are restored and thriving, with affordable housing close to good jobs and a variety of transportation options, including safe walking and biking paths lined with trees. The region's businesses, parks, and neighborhoods are connected, maintaining the small town lifestyle. Cultural resources are protected and celebrated, enhancing South Maui's sense of place.
Thank you. I have one little piece of good news, housekeeping. Some people have asked me if we're able to have a lunch together to celebrate the completion of our year-long task, and I wasn't sure because of the sunshine rules, but I asked Consul Hopper, and he said it's okay as long as we don't discuss CPAC business. So I would like to schedule lunch, and I was talking to Jennifer about maybe doing that at Maui Brewing Company, one of my favorite places, for lunch. So, okay, let's decide. Any against? Okay, so we just need to find a date for that. Any other housekeeping? Brian?
As I mentioned last week, Wailea Community Association has commissioned a survey to Wailea employees, and we've confirmed that will be going out the end of November. It'll be a 3-week survey closing mid-December, and we're anticipating receiving the final results in early January. So once we have that, we'll pass that to Long Range, and I'm assuming you can pass it out to the balance of the team, but hopefully we'll be able to validate some of the questions that we had or get information to be able to make changes to the plans accordingly.
Thank you. And Mike?
Thank you, Chair. 2 announcements. First, the legal announcement. A week ago tonight, several of us attended the Department of Education presentation of the overpass, and I know there were at least 4 of us there, but I didn't see anybody discussing any business. If we discussed anything, it was just concerning the overpass. So if anybody else that participated wants to comment.
Daniel?
I'd like to turn myself in at this time. I was also in attendance at that event. I didn't eat any of the food because there wasn't any. If there was, I would have had some for sure. Yeah. So.
Any questions for Daniel? Any other housekeeping? Hua?
I don't know if this falls under housekeeping, but am I able to pass around my committee recommendation and a testimony just because I just arrived? Is that okay?
Sure, you can do that.
Thank you. And I have one for planning department as well.
And Mike again?
Yes, I have one more. Most of us were here at the beginning, and as our chair said 13 months ago, and I was the one who nominated Rob as the chair, and I remind him that it was a unanimous decision because what I've heard through the grapevine, he's been planning for 13 months how to get even with me for sticking him in this job. But it was a group decision, Rob, so please consider that if you are taking action against me. But on a serious note, I think Rob has done a fabulous job. He has endured complaints from all corners, which generally means that you're doing a good job. You know, if everybody is complaining, it's not just one side. So we already had one round of applause, but I encourage us to have one more round of applause for our chair.
Thank you. I'll try hard not to hold that against you. It's recognized that Everett has joined us, so we now have a complete 13-person CPAC meeting.
I'd also like to recognize that Mike Hopper is on the call.
Oh, excellent. Any other housekeeping? And actually, I just want to point out one more thing, and that's we mentioned that briefly last time, but we are still officially members of the CPAC until the plan is adopted, which could take 2.5 years, possibly even more, depending on what happens down the line. Hopefully, we won't be meeting all that time, but probably not meeting at all. But officially, we are still charged with that. And I think that has implications, sunshine law implications, but hopefully when we finish here, Councilor Hopper can tell us exactly what that means for us. Anything else on housekeeping? Okay, so since we don't have public testimony today, we are going straight into our agenda for today. And I wasn't quite sure whether we jump right into item D or Mike. In response to your question, I think my understanding is there's a lot of people are requesting changes before we finalize it. So I think before we say up or down, we should allow members to address other issues, and I, for one, would like to make a motion. Go ahead and make a motion. Okay. If we've seen the testimony come in, and one of the public testimony items concerned something that I made a motion earlier, which didn't pass, so I'm going to try it again. And I'm making a motion to change the designation of the Piolani Promenade, also known as the Mega Mall lands, back to residential, as was originally approved May 17th, 2023. Is there a second? Second by Cody. Discussion? Well, I'll limit my discussion because I advanced several points before, but that's the only thing I would add. We see how much of the community has stated this is what they wanted. They wanted this to be residential, and that still seems to be the voice of the community. So that's why I'm proposing it once again. Mahalo. Kyoki, you have a comment?
Thank you, Chair. I agree with everything Mike has said. I haven't commented on this for a little bit since it was first overturned. But I will add that our mission statement, everything we've been talking about for the last 12 months, traffic, housing, infrastructure, right, water, all those things, they're not supported by, in my opinion, a small town center designation. When you look at, that's why, if you recall, Mike, I read that residential description, because what I was reading was that it offered a higher residential to business ratio, and the businesses that were allowed would be more mom and pop, small stuff. So my support of the residential designation is backed by everything I just said. And I don't know why we keep going around, in my opinion, to town center. It just doesn't support what we're talking about. And I mean, if it were up to me, nothing would get built there because of all the cultural aspects. But it's not up to me. I'm not, right, Almighty God. But there's a lot of cultural there too that needs to be really, really looked at through the mana'o of Vernon, Coco, things that I've learned about that area. It's very significant. So residential or don't build at all. Mahalo nui.
Vernon?
So this one I'm going to ask Harper, Corporate Counsel Harper, if you can chime in on this one. So this is the one with the Mega Mall, then went to Pilani Promenade. Then you have that stipulation and order where the interveners agreed to the 95 plan. You know, just asking if you know any about that action back in the day, because there is an agreement that the interveners agreed that they would give up all what they opposed and agree to the light industrial plan, the 95 plan, which sucks. Bottom line, it's junk. I didn't want anything on that lot myself, and then more now I don't like the 95 plan. But there's multiple actions, history, that most people in here don't know, and those that do know don't even talk about that. So if Harper, you can chime in on what kind of implications we're looking at if we go res or small town center.
Chair, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I did not come, I did participate in the Land Use Commission contested case hearings on this. I did not re-review that in preparation for this particular meeting, so I can tell you my background on this property that I know of. I believe that the property received a district boundary amendment to urban for a light industrial project. It subsequently received a change in zoning to light industrial for a light industrial project. When it proceeded to develop, they instead of subdividing into multiple, I think it was 23 lots, a light industrial subdivision, it ended up only dividing into 4 lots to build a large commercial project. The Land Use Commission said that's not consistent with the decision in order, and through that proceeding, there was a sort of a revised decision in order that clarified what the project would have to be, but it would be a light industrial project and commercial project, and that's my recollection. So the problem with going to residential is that the project has already gotten a community, it had a district boundary amendment for a specific project. It got a change in zoning to light industrial as well, and then it got a further clarification on a decision in order from the Land Use Commission for a light industrial project. So going to residential would seem to be sort of inconsistent with that in the community plan. I understand that the community plan is looked at as sort of the driver for all of this, but I don't think it would be a bit odd to ignore that sort of procedural history, rather versus if it was like right now designated as ag in the plan, or even something else that didn't have that history of entitlement. So that's my recollection of the property. This is just from personal recollection rather than actually going back and reviewing that for this meeting. But that was sort of, I think, some of the issues involved with going to residential at this point. So that was the history there. I don't think it's certainly as extreme as going to, open space or park or certain things that have been done in other cases that we've discussed. But it's I think a departure from what was granted by the State Land Use Commission and what's allowed there now, just for the group's information. And again, could go over more detail in this. If it was known and if it goes forward, we can look at it in more detail, but that's my recollection of the history. The planning department may have more up-to-date information than myself, but that's based on my recollection.
Thank you. So, Jackie, any insight on following up on this part, on this action designation, how we got there, and what if we put this back to res?
Thank you, Vernon. So I looked at the different designations. State Land Use District is urban. The community plan designation is currently light industrial. And the county zoning is M1 light industrial. And the flood hazard area is X, which is moderate to low risk area, according to the information we have on our website. In terms of the county zoning, M1 light industrial, it specifically excludes single-family dwellings, duplexes, bungalow courts, and vacation rentals. It does allow dwelling units located in the same building as any non-dwelling permitted use. So that would have to be, say, an apartment like with a store on the bottom floor or something like that. That's the kind of dwellings that the zoning would allow. I'm not familiar with the settlement agreement, so I can't speak to that. But that's the kind of dwelling units that would be allowed by the county zoning M1 light industrial.
So,
and then I would just, Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Chair? Just to go along with that, I think one of the other issues is that the Land Use Commission had a decision in order, and as I recall, that it was unclear if the DNO allowed for any residential use at all, because it was approved as a light industrial project. So that's sort of the history as far as what's allowed on there right now, as I understand it. So while the zoning might allow some type of residential uses, I think that was something that was sort of discussed in the docket, because the Wailea 670 project was planning on putting residential units there, and that was one of the challenges from the interveners as to whether or not residential was allowed there. And some of the concerns was that the original approval didn't really plan for residential, didn't do traffic studies for residential, et cetera. And so that was something that was discussed. So we want to look into that further to see if any sort of residential is currently allowed there now. It's not necessarily zoning, which might allow it in certain limited cases. We would also want to look at the Land Use Commission decision in order in the most recent settlement agreement and any and DNO to sort of clarify that. So I think the residential designation would definitely be inconsistent with what's allowed by zoning and the Land Use Commission DNO, based on my recollection. But we'd want to look at that, in some more detail as well. But yeah, I think I would raise that as a concern. I wouldn't just look at the zoning, because we have that Land Use Commission decision in order for a particular project. So that's the unique history there.
Gary?
Good evening, sir. I think I have a little bit of a follow-up question on on something that Vernon asked. So, if I understand you correctly, that it is light industrial today, so therefore any change, let's presume, because this is what we believe we understand, that the current owner has an interest in putting residential in there, and that the discussion at the CPAC so forth has been in anticipation of that. And so therefore the two choices that we seem to have is STC with residential or residential with some commercial. Is there a real distinction here, or are those essentially equivalent in terms of the work that would be required by the owner to migrate the current definition to one of those two choices?
Well, I mean, if the owner is actually looking at redoing everything, I think they need to go to the Land Use Commission for, to revise their DNO, potentially go to the council to change their zoning from what, currently M1 light industrial, unless they're planning on doing the limited industrial that's allowed in that zoning. And then as far as the appropriate designation, I think we could discuss that with the department. I guess that would be based on whatever their future plans are, which I don't know the specifics of, but if it sounds like small town center would be a bit broader as far as the things that could be allowed. Residential, as I understand it, I think R1 might allow. I think there's some residential zonings that allow limited commercial uses, but if the residential designation itself, I think, would be pretty limited as far as the commercial type designations it would allow, and small town center would be a bit broader. I guess the department could discuss that. But I mean, I can only advise on what the current decision in order is, and I don't know if the landowner has come in and said, we're planning on doing this, so we're going to go to the Land Use Commission to get a change, or if the Land Use Commission DNO already allows this. But that's just my concern, because I know with this property, it hasn't been just what it says in the community plan or in the zoning. It's sort of specific to what the Land Use Commission decision in order and representations made at the Land Use Commission have been with this project. So that's the only thing where it's a bit unique here. It's not like a parcel of raw land or a parcel of land that doesn't have something like that on it. It's got a recorded decision in order on it with very, with sort of limitations on what it could develop. But as far as what the developer is going to do, couldn't say if residential or small town center would be more in keeping with those future plans. But until the Land Use Commission DNO would be amended to meet those, I think it would maybe be difficult to say.
So according to our community plan draft, small town center allows for B1 and B2 business, A1 apartment, no M1. Residential allows for B1 business, small business, but also besides the A1, it also allows for A2, R0, R1, R2, R3. So a much wider range of residential than small town center does. So in terms of flexibility for, I think, what the community would like to see, residential is far better. Kyoki and then Daniel.
Okay, so obviously I'm not as knowledgeable about the laws and what has gone on before this, but the comments I'm about to make are merely to provoke thought. Historically, in Hawaii, here on Maui, when it benefits landowners, investors, developers, zoning has been changed like that. We've seen it time and time again. I may not be Maui with all the laws, but I am a good researcher, and these things I have read about through time. Again, I don't have the answer. I just want to provoke thought. Mahalo.
Daniel?
A developer who has a decision order from the Hawaii State Land Use Commission can go in and request an amendment to the decision order. It's not uncommon for that to happen. So it's something that's done in practice regularly.
Vernon?
So, all you guys that stay clapping, I'm going to put you guys' name. Okay. Because you know why? The interveners, they always talk about they represent the community. Does the community know about this stipulation and order? You guys all know about that? Yeah. So, but, Keoki get good manao, but, yeah, it's their land. You know, it's their land. So, not, you know, yeah, Dan, you're right. The landowner can go. The landowner, you know, get meeting this Friday. You know, so I pressured him. He got to come up with something, at least 80-20. You know, so I'll talk, right? So he still got to submit something. So, yeah, I'm hanging on to my pants on this one. But at the same time, if we change this to res, all these guys that said that this is all cultural related, that's all recorded. Are you guys going to protect those sites? You guys going to protect those sites? Yeah. So not going to have too much housing. So get history, get record on that land. So what my fear was, the interveners, yeah, they was on the same page. They talk from two sides of the mountain. They never liked residential on that property. They wanted to keep that open space. And they're still trying to do that today. Yeah, so you guys, I mean, I'm going to vote against it only because I know the history. And I know where this thing was going. And then why would you want to settle and go back to the 95 plan? That landowner had 2 acres, 4 acres, 8 acres, 12 acres for preservation total. Then one day, one of the interveners come to me and said, hey, I think I'm going to ask the landowner, Vern, for 20 more. 2 days later, the stipulation and order was created. Then go hire one attorney. So at this point, when we started all of this, the good thing about this, we talking about it. You know, either way it goes, I'm fine with it. But it's probably going to end up in litigation again. Stretch them out. Then what the value of this property going to end up be? Too long, yeah. The money just getting higher and higher. So what can res be at that time? So for the landowner, yeah, it's all right, you know. But yeah, I talk to this guy all the time. I tell him, right, you got to hurry up. The community not buying in. Yeah, Dan, you're right. But come next year, he going to dig up the place. He just waiting for one more permit from Shipty. Then what? Then 2.5 years from now, going to get cul-de-sacs. Our plan going to take time, yeah. And that's just one situation. We get other situations like, I mean, this is the kind kamaha, yeah, the weight that's sit on us right now. Don't put all this stuff on us on CPAC. You know, we're still trying to learn. We're doing the best we can. And it's not just a Pilani Promenade thing, you know, it's just comments that people make last week, the week before, from the community. That's not fair to us. It's our time. So I gonna hold what I would make motion to, knowing where this can go. We have an opportunity to make like what we have down Lipoa Street across St. Teresa Church, housing on top, mom-pop stores on the bottom. Nothing big retail. So as his words, but never see him on paper yet. So I'm on kind of the same boat with you guys until we see something more solid on his end, a commitment. Yeah, but and all those sacred sites that those interveners point out, nah, that's not sacred. But it's on record to them as sacred. But I'm going to call them out when come res. Or are you guys going to build on top of that? Oh, no, you guys going to change your mind. Yeah, not into that. So it's not always the developer's problem or issue. It's sometimes community and interveners. What is their agenda? Settlements. Yeah, they never get what they wanted. So maybe they're still trying. Okay? That's my thought.
Just want to remind everyone that what we're trying to do, what we're doing here, our responsibility as the community advisory committee for the South Maui Community Plan, is to express what we would like to see happen there. So would we like to see a mix of residential, not just small apartments, but also maybe large apartments, some single-family homes, a variety of things like that? Or do you want to see just only these small apartments and most of it business? So one is small town center, the other one's residential. That's what we have to vote on. Is what is our vision?
Light industrial is not something that they could just say, no, we're just going to do the light industrial. That is a possibility, yeah?
No one wants to do that, though.
No, it doesn't matter, but can they do it?
I mean, if that was our goal, then we could name that part as employment center, and then there would be no residential. There would be then there would be no housing at all. If we wanted to have it be light industrial.
Well, I'm not in support of it. My question is, can the developer simply say, I'm done, we're just going to stick with maybe our original whatever they have as light industrial, because they've been approved to do light industrial, correct? So if they want to, they can say, we're done. We're just going to do light industrial. That's possible, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
But our job here is to say what we would like to see in that area, as opposed to what a developer would like to see.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, so we say res. Let's say we say res tonight. Come May next year, he start infrastructure to that 95 plan, light industrial. Then what? You know what I mean, yeah? We put him res tonight. Come next year, he start digging up the area. I mean, how we change that? And then to Daniel's, which I think he's right. This guy not gonna go walk up into land LUC. Change it.
I have not heard any expression from the developer that they want to put light industrial there. The only thing we've ever seen from them is commercial type stuff.
Okay, so Karen and Jackie, you guys hear from him, yeah, sometimes. So what are you guys feeling about this guy? Temperature check kind.
They do have entitlements to start on light industrial. This is also outside of the SMA, so zoning does take precedence in that case, and they have light industrial zoning. The current landowner, or the current developer, I should say, does want to do a mix of uses. That is the reason Small Town Center was chosen, was to enable him to do that, and because the community sentiment was to have more residential there. So it is trying to support both the desires with the most likely way to get that accomplished.
Thank you.
So I think in the spirit of trying to find some common ground on this, a couple weeks ago we accepted, 5, 6 or so area-specific policies. And so I think it's helpful, I think, for everybody to go back and take a look at those. And one of the most significant ones was to establish an 80-20 ratio of residential to commercial, and I'm not taking a position for or against right now the motion. I just want people to recognize that there's been some dialogue here, and I think some of that dialogue has been floated through the current owner, and I think the feedback has been that these specific policies are acceptable. And if that is the case, and there is an 80-20 mix of residential to commercial and a set of, I'll call them simply guardrails of how they could be applied, I think there's an indication that, given what I understand from council, they will have to go to the land use planning people, whatever decision we make today. That their interest is not in doing the light industrial. So, and if they're going to go back to the land use committee, then I would suggest that the closer that they are aligned to what's in the community plan, the more likely it is to get the support that they're looking for, so that they don't stick in the land use committee and have to work too hard to get through to actually doing something with his property. Again, I just want to try to get that out for everybody to kind of understand. This isn't an easy light switch. This is a complicated circumstance with, and I think we need to be respectful, but I think we also have to be deliberative and communicate clearly as best we can what we think is the right community plan.
Mike?
Several weeks ago, we were talking about who owns this land. I thought I clarified it that Seraphim Realty Developers out of Dallas, Texas, has always been the owner. There's no change in ownership. But Daniel made a very good point and said, that's not what we're here for. It's not who owns the land. It's what does the community want on this land. Otherwise, why are we here? We just say, well, whoever owns the land can do whatever they want. So, but I think it's good to clarify. If we're talking about ownership, Seraphim has always been the owner. They have never changed what they were trying to do, except when they were forced to by the Land Use Commission, and they have hired a series of developers over the years to try and achieve what they wanted to achieve, but their goal has never changed. I have never heard them say, anybody who's speaking for the owner, say that they were changing anything. But I revert back to what Daniel told us, and it's not up to who owns the land. It's up to what the community wants, and that's what we're here for, is to say this is what the community wants, not what the zoning says, not what somebody else says. This is a community plan, and we're supposed to be speaking for the community. And what I'm hearing from the community, I have always heard, I personally attended every LUC meeting from the get-go, and that was always what I heard, not unanimously. Yes, there were some that came in, but that's always been the consistency, is that we want residential. And yes, there was some consideration of, wouldn't open space be better? But you back and say, well, will this landowner, even though he doesn't say the community owning it for all these years, investing it, and say, okay, yes, we just won't develop anything there, we'll be justified. I don't think so. So I think if we're making a choice, it's what the community wants is residential, and that's why I made the motion tonight. Mahalo.
Everett?
I'm going to be voting against it. I think if this were to pass, if residential were to pass, it would end up being industrial. The landowner is going to protect his interest. He's got pension fund investors. They've got a fiduciary duty to those pension funds, and they're going to go forward with all residential. All industrial. And I don't think that's what we want. They've expressed a willingness to have a mixed-use project, residential, under the small, which is allowed under the small town commercial. I'm going to be voting against it, and I think with the guardrails that are in place that it will be a mixed-use project, and it will have residential.
Vernon?
So, Mike, you guys never like residential. Yeah, the multiple plans that were submitted, you guys keep turning them down. So I'm just going to say it, Mike, you just go with the win. You get 4 other interveners, yeah? And then whatever they come up with, that, yeah. Yeah, so you guys never like, you guys didn't string them out because the interveners wanted that to stay open space or ag. Yeah.
Well,
and then you remember
asking, KCA was not an intervener. And what our position was...
Oh, they needed you. They didn't need you for support, whatever, or not support.
Point of order. That's not polite. You guys talk about the issue, not about each other, please.
Yeah, no, thank you. But see, me is about narrative, the story, the whole story. So I'm okay with res. I'm okay with res because especially now, we need res. But again, there's more to the story. Whatever the litigation ends up to, yeah. And then if the Kanaka's going to protect all that sites that they said have.
Okay, I think we're ready to go to a vote because we've heard these arguments over and over again. Lehua?
So if the developer says, nope, I'm not going to do them, but he's open to, or I don't know, open to possibly making it Hawaiian homes, would you guys support that? Right, I talked to a friend today, and she made a good suggestion. So I'm just throwing it out there. Hawaiian homes.
Okay, those in favor of the motion to change the destination back to residential, please raise your hand. And those against?
Chair, this is Michael Hopper. Just for the record, I think if it's not unanimous, check out or get a vote count and who's voting in favor and against. I think planning is taking track of that, but I think it's good for online to have the votes
Once we have
specifically stated.
once we have them.
We have Vernon, Lehua, Brian Ward, Jennifer, and Everett against. And then it was Daniel, Gary Passon, Brian Ward? Nope. Okay. Kioki, Tova Callender, Cody Nemeth, and Randall Leach, and Mike. And Rob abstains, so that's 8 yeses.
So, okay, motion passes. Anything else before we go to the plan adoption? Daniel?
Thank you, Chair. I sent out written testimony yesterday, and I hope everyone had a chance to read it. It was regarding us not including in the appendices a list of area, sites, and structures recognized as having historical or archaeological significance, and a list of scenic sites and resources, which is one of the things that are required to be included in a community plan according to the Maui County Code. I thought and still think that the plan is incomplete without including that list because we are the South Maui CPAC, and it's our kuleana to, well, it's not our kuleana to delegate this responsibility to the Maui Planning Commission or to the county council. We're the residents here, we're the citizens of this area, and we should not default by not including a list. So I think we do need to work tonight on including a list, and to that, in that effort to do so, I wish to propose a motion. If we could pull up Lucienne Dene's testimony submitted on Monday. It's a package of. It's not numbered, but the top of the page reads significant sites in Maui. Okay, so let's move forward a couple of pages. It's right there, at the top. So I want to propose part of what is written here in my motion. I move to amend the appendices of the South Maui draft plan to include or to read everything in the first paragraph, which is just a citation of the Maui County Code related to what needs to be in the plan, which is there, a list of areas, sites, and so forth. I'd like to make that part of my motion. The second paragraph also, except I would like to change the language from the following is a, instead of proposed, I would like to say recommended. The following is a recommended listing of areas of historical or archaeological significance, scenic sites and resources that should be considered as a living document to be, instead of consistently, I'll use regularly updated to reflect the rich legacy of South Maui Community Plan. Then everything else is pretty much the same, reads pretty much the same in my motion until you get to the very last paragraph. I guess, Karen, you can't amend this, right? Because, okay. So everything else is the same except when we get to the last bullet point. I'd like it to read scenic sites, comma, resources, and wahikupuna, including but not limited to, and everything else is the same. So it's scenic sites, comma, resources, and wahikupuna. So that motion, it's pretty much 98% what's here, and except with a few changes in wording. Thank you, Chair.
I kind of think we need to have that so we know exactly what we're voting on. Would it be possible to annotate? Brenda? Okay, yes, a second. Second by Brian. If you need more time, maybe we should just take a break, Karen, and then resume so you don't have the pressure. Okay. Start with a 10-minute break. Okay, resuming the meeting at 6:34 p.m. So discussion. So we have the motion on the screen.
Yes, can I speak to the motion?
Sure.
Was there a second?
Brian.
Okay, good. So the state and all county agencies have a responsibility to preserve and protect Hawaii's historic identity, to ensure that Hawaii's treasure past is here for future generation. And we are a county board and commission. We fall under the county. So we have that historic preservation responsibility. That's why I felt so strongly that we needed to include in the recognize that, and where we could express what we'd like to see preserved and protected. So the last meeting there was a conundrum. The conundrum was that some felt that historic and archaeological sites had to be those that have been reviewed by State Historic Preservation Division. But the county code on the top of the page, if you scroll up, allows for other categories to be included that don't fall under that. And then if you look at the appendices of historic sites listed in other community plans that have preceded us, had updated, like Lanai, Molokai, and West Maui, you can see how they handle this situation. So if you look at Lanai, which is in your packet, they included things like old gymnasium, old bowling alley, old administration building, old theater, first Hawaiian Bank building, right? They did that. Why can't we do the same? They were ahead of us. And you look at the other community plans, they did something similar. So I think the language in my motion gives us the ability to not only include historic sites and archaeological sites that are documented and have been reviewed by the state, but also accommodates those things that we as a community want to protect for future generations based upon what we'd like to see in the plan. So I think this is an opportunity for us to speak to that and add more to what's already up here or amend it. You know, if you have some friendly amendments you want to make to the language, I think I'm open to that. But I think this is a workable document that we can start with. Thank you, Chair.
Discussion? Lehua?
Thank you, Daniel. So when you say workable document, that's something that's going to be going forward we can add to. Is that what you mean?
Yes, my motion is now on the floor. It's on the table for everybody to look at and to add to or take away from. You know, it belongs to everybody that's here today. It's not my motion anyway. It's everybody's motion to act on.
I am going to make one suggestion, that instead of be considered a living document, to say that it should be incorporated into a living document, because it will be difficult to be updating the South Maui community list specifically as a living document.
And then just to add on to that, so that second sentence should be incorporated into a living document such as the Cultural Resources Management Plan.
I think those are excellent suggestions, and I'd like to add that to amend my motion to reflect that.
More discussion? Any objections? Okay, fine, we've adopted the Daniel's motion with Brian second. Anything else before we go to consideration of adopting the plan? Daniel?
I have 3 more motions, but I feel like I've been motioning a lot, so if anybody else wants to make motions, I yield the floor.
Anyone want to do laps? Lehua?
I mean, it doesn't matter where. We could just make the motion. Okay. So I have a motion for Section 2, Policy Framework 2.2 Goal, Safe, Healthy, Livable Communities for All, page 36 under Policies. It states, my motion is to amend 2.210 to include additional specific sports amenities to state as follows. So this is, as far as I know, was page 36. So 2.210. It currently reads, encourage the development of additional public pickleball courts. I would like to amend it to say, encourage the development of additional public pickleball courts, basketball courts, soccer fields, baseball fields, a combo football and rugby field to include lights for nighttime use. Okay, all right.
Okay, on my count. 1, 2, 3. Randall got Randall seconds.
Okay, so maybe I can jam my other two, and then
Oh,
is
wait.
that okay?
No, let's do one at a time.
Okay, no, I mean after.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me when somebody else. Okay.
It's in writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or else I could come back to me. I don't have to go right now.
No, let's resolve this one first before we go on to something else. Discussion? It seems to me like we talked about this before, but I don't remember what the resolution was. Brian?
That was going to be my question, because Daniel, I believe you made a policy or an action, I don't remember which was, for more recreational space.
More athletic fields?
Yeah, more
Is that the
athletic
one?
fields. Yeah.
Like a baseball field.
So is that one? I think it was. Karen, could you confirm, because I thought we included that in one of our most recent updates.
2.05, identify additional locations and construct additional athletic fields, particularly for youth athletics such as baseball. That's an action. So this is a proposal for policy. So I guess since we have a policy which calls out pickleball, the intent here is to broaden that to other types of activities. Any more discussion? Any objections? Okay, and we adopted that amendment to 2.2.10, policy 2.2.10. Okay, continue, Leha.
For 2.3 goal, ready and resilient systems, page 43, policies under water. I wanted to add a motion following 2.319. And I don't know if this would then be 2.3.20. I'm not sure where we're at. And I'd like to make a motion to say the following public policies regarding water must always be adhered to for current and future development. Public Trust Doctrine, the State Water Code, and the County of Maui's Water Use Development Plan. Because none of those are mentioned in at least Section 2. I don't know if it's any place else, but I think this is extremely important that we have that in writing. So, need a second.
Second, Micah. Gary, second. Okay. Okay. Discussion. Any objections? Okay, now we've adopted additional policy following 2.3.19, 2.3.19a. Go ahead.
And the last one I have is 2.3 goal, ready and resilient systems, page 44, policies, wastewater. This may be in, but I just had to put it out there. So following 2.3.25, I motion to add the following as 2.3.26. require any new development to develop their own source of potable water and to develop wastewater treatment policies as defined by the Department of Health, so they'll be able to produce their own R1 water for irrigation fire mitigation. So, all right. Not sure it's-
Is there a second? Second by Cody. And discussion? Everett?
I'm going to be voting against this. We have a water department that's responsibility is to provide water for our community, and to require developers to go out and develop their own source of portable water, all that's going to do is further reduce the supply of housing. We've tried it before. Show me the water, it didn't work. And it's just going to further reduce the supply of housing. You're going to end up with a bunch of developers popping holes where they shouldn't necessarily be popped. It's going to probably be brackish water, which then they're going to have to dispose of the leftover. And in terms of, that's the first part of the motion. The second part is to provide their own R1 water. We have a sewer treatment plant, and that treats all of the waste. And somewhere else in the plan, we have extending the lines from the sewer treatment plant so that the effluent could be used for irrigation, which is a much more realistic and economical. It's expensive still, but it's doable. Whereas this wouldn't be doable. I mean, this would require each project to have its own either package plant, which would, I mean, not that there would be any housing because the first one kills all the housing, the developing their own water, but producing your own effluent is just, it's not practical. Neither one is practical.
Can I ask you a question then, in regards to, because you're far more knowledgeable for me, than I am. This comes from a person that in the community. I actually attached her testimony, and so I supported it only because it just sounded like the developer would then, that's their kuleana to add to, maybe I guess using alternative water sources. And that was the main point. So there's an attached testimony from Tony Eaton that supports this. And Everett, I absolutely believe and trust everything that you're saying. But is this something that that happens elsewhere, something like this, that we might be able to look at it and say, okay, it might work there, but not here?
Maui is the only of the 8 states that we've developed in 2 foreign countries. This is the only place we've ever done business that the water. I mean, most jurisdictions, you want the public to develop those sources. You want the public to own those sources and to develop those sources, as opposed to requiring or giving up that asset to developers.
Okay.
Cody?
So I just wanted to bring up that I remember when we had that presentation by Maui County Water Department, and I had asked them, where do you see our water in the future? And the reason why I support this is because they had confirmed themselves that as of now, we have the water to supply Maui's needs, but if we keep going the rate that we're going, we're going to lose our water in the future. And I don't know if you guys remember that presentation and when I asked them that, but that always kind of stuck in my head. So I think it's really about we're looking 20, 30 years down the line, and we need to come up with solutions and figure out ways to get our own water, basically. So just wanted to share that.
I think what we did earlier, in terms of looking at the effluent as a resource, which right now we're pumping into the ground, is causing problems in the ocean because we have this asset, and we're not treating it with respect. We're wasting it, and that waste is in turn causing problems for our coral, causing problems for our water. So I think what we've done earlier was I think it's one of the best things we did. I think putting that in the plan where the line has to be extended and it can't be wasted, it has to be used. It's a resource that we can sell to help fund the cost of extending the line. I think that's something we can all be proud of. I think we did a good thing there.
Hey, Gary?
An additional point I would add to that is that affordable housing has been a constant drumbeat for this set of meetings. And one of the challenges of building affordable housing is loading up the cost of building housing. And this is a case where I think the community, through through public funding, should and could provide the kind of infrastructure so that when the houses need to get built, they can be built in a form that's much more affordable than the approaches we've been dealing with over the last 40 years. So from that perspective, I will probably vote against it as well.
One additional point, and this is something that I don't understand. For every one of us, when we pay for a water meter, if we have a piece of property, we want to do a family subdivision, we pay for that water meter. There are three elements of that water meter. One of them is transmission, one of them is storage, and one of them is source development. Right? So for every water meter that's been issued for decades, there's a source development component of that fee. Name a well that the county of Maui has drilled over the last couple of decades. I mean, it's just, we're paying millions of dollars in there for source development, but where's the water? Where are the wells at the county? How are they spending that money? Is it sitting in an account? I asked the question when the water department was here. I never got an answer, but I asked the question. It's something's just wrong. I mean, something's just wrong that the public, and that just adds the cost of the housing. We're paying for these. We're paying for this. We're paying for the source development, but no source is being developed. So either rebate it to the taxpayers, or spend the money for well development so that we don't have this issue. So.
And then Daniel.
So what you're saying, Everett, I just saw I think it was a Kako town meeting on PBS the other night, and I think what Gary is saying in terms of adding more cost to what the developer has to do only gets passed on to the housing costs. And so I understand that. This is just from what I took away from that meeting, so I get that. But how about, I think I was told that there's like Kamole wells. I think there's like some wells in Kihei that has water so that we don't have to depend on the water coming from that side. Is that something that has ever been talked about using?
I can't speak with much knowledge on that. I mean, to me, Maui, we're all one community, and I don't understand. Like on water, there's something in the Upcountry Community Plan that upcountry water can't leave upcountry, and to me, that's like saying, okay, well, upcountry people can't use South Maui's beaches. It's just we're all one island, we're all one community, and truthfully, I think we should all be one water system. I think, I wish there was we were all connected, so that when one part of the island's dry, we take care of that part of the island. It's having these separate systems that aren't connected for emergencies, for firefighting, for potable use. I don't know. I just naively think that we're kind of all one. We all depend and we share.
It was Daniel there, and then it'll be Kilky.
So Everett, we can ask your questions about funding for water resources tomorrow. at the Hikie Community Center at the mayor's budget hearing. All the heads of the department will be there. You can ask the head of the water department that question directly.
I'll be on a flight to go see my 88-year-old mother.
Oh, you want me to ask for you?
Sure, I'd love that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the other thing about water. Okay. Water, historically, Maui is the most precious of all resources. That's why I say water is life. And it was protected and managed by the Konehiki, by the elite. In violation of misuse of water was subject to death. I think we should reinstitute that.
Which policy section?
I was going to make a motion. but yeah. I've Clara Pana has come and testified at these CPAC meetings many times about water and South Maui's use of water. I have to say, as a district, as the leeward side, as a dry side of the island, we do use a lot of water. We are water hogs, to be frank with you. And it's really unfair to other areas. If we want to take care of other areas of the island, we need to be equitable and be very, very careful how we use water here. Shouldn't be going to all these swimming pools in every house. I'm getting off the subject, but I just wanted to make the point that water is life. And what makes maybe Hawaii different than other places is how the way we historically and culturally view water as a resource.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Good points, Daniel. Also, good points about community, Everett. In a perfect world, governments would be more proactive and not reactive, right? Like echoing what Daniel's saying, we cannot stress enough the importance, especially where we live, about water. And some of the mana'o that Tova has shared over the course of this CPAC process leads me to believe that we're way behind in what we need to be doing with our water and every shape and form of it. Do you feel like, as a developer, there's not enough collaborative stuff? It's kind of one or the other, or?
I do, and it gets back. I agree with you. We are behind, and a lot of communities are. I mean, this is kind of an extreme, but they're drinking effluent, treated effluent. We don't need to go that far. I mean, we have more water than Oahu. We have a storage issue. We have a waste issue. We have a just the lack of effluent that we have. We've got this resource that we're just. I mean, you look at what West Maui, and the lawsuit out there that prevented and we're injecting water over here, and we need water. We've got the golf courses, we've got the resorts, and we could sell them that water, take their irrigation off of potable water, which is just a waste. So we're wasting it two ways. We're wasting the potable water, and we're wasting the effluent.
Real quick, last comment. Thank you, Everett. Don't know what you got till it's gone.
So just a quick comment to Lehua. So you were asking about other water sources. I was just reading the final EIS for MRTP last week, and they're on well water. They have their own wells. So there are different ways people address this. Are we ready to go to decision? Daniel? That was MRTP, wells. Daniel? Oh.
So I worked at the Department of Water Supply for many years, and a problem with developments developing their own source of potable water is if it's not to county standards and that system goes down, they're on their own. And also if it's not to county standards, the county will not accept it as part of their system. And the good thing about being on the county system is you've got backup. And so this would be kind of I would say if I lived in one of these neighborhoods, I'd be kind of nervous because you never know when your water's going to go down because it's not on the county system. Thank you.
Just in regards to that, so my motion said as defined by the Department of Health. So they would have to be in total compliance of whatever the standards are set forth by the Department of Health. I just wanted to mention that. But I agree with you, but that was my motion to include that. So, because I had thought about the same thing, like how can they manage their own, so. But thank
Daniel's.
Okay, Lou, I think I see what you're trying to do, and I'm hearing Everett's points and others' points. The one point that Gary brought up was affordable housing. Shouldn't we exclude affordable housing from this requirement? Any new development other than affordable housing?
Okay, so we had Auntie Claire come over here tell us we got to return her water, right? And I keep telling her it's not her water. We never take her water. So we get affordable housing. Where that water going to come from? It's a good question, Dan, you're asking. The other problem I have, if we ask the developer, I mean, I think this is great. It's just we got to tweak this. So, the Hilton, Maui Bay Villas, they get 2 wells. Never in a lifetime since I lived there that those 2 wells went dry. So that water come from Mauka. That water going to run through Kaonaulu, Kulani Hakoi. That well dry today. Never ever happened. So yeah, we get watershed problems upside. So imagine MRPT Park. They tap in those waters. So that water go through down there by PEKL. The Longs Drugs, yeah. So you see the water go dry, then come back from tide. So South Maui was sustainable on its own long time ago, even in the 60s. We never had to go get water from someplace else, but because of development, now we're gonna do this. We're gonna tap from wells, so that water, the circle of life of water, not gonna reach the kai. So never mind the reefs, never mind the fish pond, never mind the wetlands, because of development. So it's tricky, yeah, when we whatever urban growth, small town center, we go back to res. We in one tough situation, because if we use the wells, we depleting that important water that gotta reach the kai, or else our reef dead. So we still in junk situation. We like housing, but and then Wailuku like the water back. I forget bring Auntie some water tonight, but she never comes. But I'm going to give some water, 1 gallon at a time.
Any more discussion? Ready for a vote? Those in favor, please raise your hand. And those opposed, please raise your hand.
Gary Passan, yes. Oh, sorry, this is all no's. Gary Passan, no. Brian Ward, no. Tova Callender, no. Mike, why can't I remember your name tonight? Mike Moran, no. Jennifer Sullivan, no. Randall Leach, no. Everett Dowling, no. And the rest are abstentions, which count as a yes.
Okay, so the motion fails. 7 no's. Anything else before we go to... Daniel has some more things.
What time is it? No. Could we turn to the Section 4 implementation and monitoring in the draft plan? Okay, yeah. Yeah, let's go to the top of that page. Oh, yeah, right there. That's good. So these are actions, right? Implementing actions. And then you look at the categories: type, priority, timing, county, lead agency, and you get to cost. And cost says, it says there TBD. TBD means, was that what it means? To be determined. So I counted how many actions that are listed. It's like 127 actions. And 46 of those have TBD, cost, to be determined, what the cost. That's 36% of this, the actions for this plan. The costs aren't there, not even a gross estimate. We've never talked about cost at all. It's never been brought up as a topic in this meeting. We've never dealt with it. And apparently we're not going to deal with it at all. And to me, that's a concern because...
So are you making a motion?
Yes, I'm leading up to it. Sorry. So in one respect, the feasibility of a plan depends on whether or not you can afford it.
Let's make a motion, then we can discuss it after that. Motion first.
Very well, Chair. So could we pull up Dick Mayor's testimony? Sorry, Chair, I should have made that when I was speaking to the motion. Me culpa. So it's in your packet, October 30, 2023, Dick Mayor. It looks like this.
So are you making the motion in his testimony?
Not exactly, but yes, I'd like to move to amend the draft plan to include the motion. Motion. We require that our planning department prepare a detailed infrastructure report indicating the infrastructure that will be needed to implement our South Maui Community Plan, and include estimated cost to provide this infrastructure over the next 20 years, which is the planning period. Next paragraph. As a minimum, the report should contain the infrastructure needed to support the plan's proposed development: highways, intersections and traffic signals, water sources, transmission lines and reservoirs, water tanks, schools at all levels, shoreline protection, expansion of wastewater facilities, drainage, food and flood control, etc. And then the next paragraph, I'm not going to include the first sentence. Delete the first sentence, and then the rest is, it then should be made available for the, read the Maui Planning Commission, scratch the South Maui Advisory Committee, and the County Council for their consideration when they review and adopt the final South Maui Community Plan.
Second.
That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike.
So yeah, I just wanted to speak to the motion that we've never spoken about what this plan is going to cost. We have no clue. We've supersized the plan because we've designated land use to the extent of some of the urban boundaries. In the plan, it talks about, in certain places, about the county and the state coordinating with project developers the cost of infrastructure. So in other words, we'll be sharing, the taxpayers, will be sharing the cost of developing infrastructure needed infrastructure for this plan. So if we don't have those cost numbers, then the Maui Planning Commission should have those cost figures, at least an estimate. And we don't need all these TBAs, TBDs, to be determined. There should be an estimate put in where the TBDs are, so that the Maui Planning Commission and the County Council will have an idea of how much this proposed or recommended draft plan is going to cost us to develop over the next 20 years. And this is part of the implementation and monitoring section 4 of this plan, but I think it's good to call it out to be specific. It's also in the code for the community plans, what community plans are, and that being having these financial statements included in the implementation plan is important. We've never talked about numbers. You know, for me, it's like I recently planned an event at a restaurant for a mixer. I had to decide where to hold it and who was going to come. And so getting an idea of how many people were going to be there gave me an understanding of what I would need to have in terms of a budget for food and drinks, and also pay for the venue, right? So I estimated within 20% of what the actual number was. So I was a little over budget, and then but I was fine. We had the money to pay for it, right? So that's kind of like this draft plan. Okay, the venue is the district, South Maui district, and the guests are the planned development, the housing, right? And so and the infrastructure is the food and water. Do we have enough food and water to provide for our guests? Do we have enough infrastructure to provide for the housing needs, which we have gone beyond what was asked from us? We were supposed to have housing needs for 3,700 to 6,100 people, and now we've doubled or tripled that, basically. So how much is the plan that we're proposing as a CPAC going to cost the Maui, County of Maui? How much is it going to cost the taxpayers? That's why I'm proposing this this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Jennifer?
That's a great point, Daniel. Oh my God, that's a lot. I have a question for planning. What is your plan? What was the intent of leaving them as TBDs?
Some of them would take reaching out to departments to get estimates on and giving them time to do that. Some of them are just hard to have estimates on because it could change over time.
More discussion? Mike?
Yes. When I saw Dick's testimony that the department sent to us, it did strike a chord with me because, and it should have come to my attention way before that, because over the years when I kept asking, why weren't we following the old 1998 plan? A few people who worked for the different departments, maybe not department heads, threw that back to me and said, because nobody concerned about cost. It was all pie in the sky stuff. Yeah, we want this, we want that, and nobody thought about how is it going to get paid for. So this is certainly a valid consideration. Now, when I read it, I also pictured in my mind that the department is going, what? You want us to develop this? You know, we're shorthanded. But we can certainly ask for it. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. And we all understand the situation of the planning department. So that's why I did second it, because I think it's a valid thing to at least address this issue that we have not addressed the whole 13 months. So I think it's a valid point. Mahalo.
So the motion doesn't cover the TBD in the actions. It only is that a separate motion?
Thank you. I can include that in my motion to include giving at least a gross estimate of all these to be determined cost of the actions. So if I can include that in the plan. Also, Chair, I don't know if Dick Mayer is online or not. Is he online? If he's online, I'd like to ask that he be a resource person because, you know, this is basically what he's was suggesting to the CPAC, and be happy to have him speak to this need.
Brian?
I guess I have kind of a question, because in theory I agree with it, but if we're putting this in as an action into our plan, which is going to be developed or be approved in 2 years' time, that's when planning would then start to create that. So it seems, principle I understand in the game to make it as an action that they would action at a future date once it gets approved. So I support the idea. I just don't understand how it's going to work as an action to help the next two levels be able to come up with the right steps. So.
This is Dick Lanier. I just want to let you know that I am available to clarify things.
Chair, can we ask Dick to be a resource person?
Any objections? Everett objects. So we need to vote on that? Everett. Okay. So those in favor of making Dick a resource person, please raise your hand.
Daniel, Gary, Kyoki, Tova, Cody, and Mike and Randall in favor.
And those opposed?
Everett, Jennifer, Brian, and Vernon opposed. Oh, and Lehua.
So it's, what was the number there?
Seven, 5, motion passes.
Okay, so motion passes. So, so do you have a question for Dick?
Yes, Dick. Just like you to speak.
Point of order.
Yes.
Could I have clarification on my question before we start going off track? Because my question is how does this motion or this action work when basically the planning would not start creating the costs until the plan's been approved? I'd like to have clarification on that.
It would probably be more of a recommendation because it wouldn't be incorporated until council looks at it. But it would also, council would be looking at it, and if we didn't do it, then possibly council would have issues with it. So it could be that council does hold the planning department to it. But it's up to council.
I can clarify that. The ordinance that sets up the whole community plan process has a very specific section, Section 4, which states that a capital improvement plan should be incorporated in it, and a financial plan should be incorporated. That's a very important part. And as you go through the process, it's unfortunately you folks didn't get that. And that's why, when the wording I put in there, it should be required that the department produce this so that when the Planning Commission discusses it, and then subsequently the council discusses it, they will have a better understanding of what's feasible and what's not. And in the past, many of the county's plans have not been implemented. We all know about the books and books on shelves that don't get implemented because of the financial part, not because people didn't want the item done. So until we get a good grasp, I think it's essential that the to be determined areas, and there may be some others that didn't get included, intersections, costs of traffic lights, we know about the roundabout, all those types of costs that remain hidden and prevented the high school from opening properly, those kinds of things. We want to make sure we cover those things so that we can do the plan properly.
Chair?
Hi, Brian.
Again, I support the concept. I'm just trying to understand sequence of events to make sure that we're not creating a problem that... so, Karen, do we have an estimate for other community plans on how many TBDs they had? As not looking for a specific number, but I mean, is it comparable?
I really have no idea right now. I haven't looked at the TBDs recently in other plans.
Chair, just a note. You should ask people, if people are going to talk, have them be recognized by the chair first, and then go forward. And I realize I should do the same there. But just to keep it clean, I would recommend that. Someone ask the chair to be recognized and then proceed.
Very naughty corporate counsel here. Okay, Daniel?
Chair, I think Dick Mayer has the answer to that about the TBDs. If we can direct that question to Dick Mayer.
The proper way would do it be you will not have the exact dollar cost until an engineer looks at the project, but there is a range. So in other words, you'd say 4 million to 6 million, or as good an estimate as can be done, because some of the costs in there, and you have some numbers. Some of the items do not have TBDs; they have dollar figures in there. I think the North-South Collector Road and a few others, but many of them do not. And I think it's really good to understand what's feasible and what's not feasible. It also will help the council prioritize things. If they see something's going to cost, let's say $100 million, they may say it's a great idea, but we can't afford it at this time. For example, I don't think you have in there, but a reservoir. The reservoir might be very expensive. It would be very useful for South Maui to be able to store water and supply water to the community. I'm using that as an example. So that would make certain things feasible or not feasible based on the cost. It's just something that should be done. And it's required by the ordinance. That's the problem.
There are quite a few TBDs in the West Maui Community Plan, even after it was adopted by the council.
Yeah.
Everett?
I think there are about 3 dozen in this West Maui plan.
Gary?
That doesn't make...
Gary first.
Yeah, that doesn't make it proper.
Sorry, Dick, you have to wait until you're recognized. It's Gary now.
I thought you recognized me.
I think this is probably somewhat inherent in an infrastructure plan, but I think I'd like to make a friendly amendment that be and include estimated timelines. I think having the dollar amount but not connected to a timeline, I think can mislead the expectations of when things might happen or could happen.
There is a column for timing, right? There's a separate column for timing. There's a separate column for timing. More discussion?
If you're making amendments, you need to accept the friendly amendments.
What was the friendly amendment?
Gary made a friendly amendment to include estimated timelines, and I think that Daniel had made an amendment to add the costs of the actions.
So Daniel amended to cover the TBDs as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then, and then in response to Gary's question, it is included in the plan already. If you look at how it's divided, and there's the timing is in there too.
I don't think that's a timeline. I think that's just an approximate. I wouldn't claim it. Yeah. I'm not sure that I would accept that that's the kind of timeline that I'm thinking in terms of that's a timeline for an action, but it's an action of building out the North Kihei Mauka Connector Road might be a 5-year timeline, not a So I'm thinking connecting the cost to the time of when that cost is going to be spent, rather than the priority of when we think we want to see it done. So I consider them a slight different variation of a theme.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so formulate the proposal.
So I think if we scroll that back a little bit, I was simply going to add a couple more words to yeah, and include estimated timelines and estimated cost of actions. Yes, so that's my proposed amendment.
Mike, okay.
So would your, guess your proposed motion, because it's saying here that the CPAC plan not be further transmitted. So
Use the mic.
Yeah, I didn't want to include that.
we can strike that.
Yeah.
So then my other question would be then, but do we have to come back and meet when they do it to, confirm it? Is that also going to be something that's going to be stated?
I didn't think about including that in there.
I mean, I don't want to see that. But
Include that. I wasn't intending to.
so what we're saying is what they put is what they put, and that's what we're going to support, right?
Yeah, we can strike. We require that our final plan not be transmitted. Yeah, that. You can strike all that, and then keep the timeline part.
I don't think it's reasonable that we should have to approve the cost, like $137,000 for the begin the installation of sidewalks, etc. That's beyond our competence. Just speaking for myself.
Is that the part you wanted to strike? Pick up your microphone.
I have my own microphone in my head. I'm sorry. Yeah, my original motion was to strike the first sentence before all the friendly amendments, and then to continue with the last sentence. It then would be made available to the planning commissioners, Maui Planning Commission, strike the South Maui Advisory Committee, and the Maui County Council. Yeah.
Can you read out loud what you're envisioning this sentence saying?
Oh, you mean the last paragraph? The last paragraph would be, it then should be made available for the Maui Planning Commission and the Maui County Council for their consideration when they review and adopt the final South Maui Community Plan. And then somewhere in there we have to fit in Gary's friendly amendments.
So the entire first sentence where it says this infrastructure report, so up above, that should go somewhere up above, probably.
The first two paragraphs don't change. They're fine. It's just the last paragraph that we're changing. Yeah, so when I made my motion, I did say strike the first sentence of the last paragraph. So we got to fit in the timelines in there somewhere in that last sentence.
Daniel, this is Jackie. How about for the last paragraph, this infrastructure report shall include estimated timelines and estimated costs of actions. It shall be made available for the Maui Planning Commission and the County Council for their consideration when they review and adopt the final South Maui Community Plan.
Yeah, that sounds good for the last paragraph. Require that prepare a detailed infrastructure report, including time. Oh, I see. Karen is sticking it up in the first paragraph, which would also work. Yeah. Yeah.
Jackie has hers in her notes, and she can just do it. We can do it what Jackie already said, as long as you guys are all good with that.
Yeah. I was going with the English major.
Any further discussion? Mike?
Yes, I would like to hear what our resource person thinks about these changes, please.
Dick?
I think the changes are fine, with the knowledge that you folks all will still be participating in the process, so that as it goes to the Planning Commission and the Council, you will see the numbers, you'll see the report, and you then may wish to take some kind of action, either through testimony or reconvene the group, because the group can be reconvened until the plan is finally adopted, if you find that this is somehow a game changer. I doubt it will be, but that could be. And that will allow the community to express their views as the process continues. So this is a good first step, and hopefully the last step in getting some numbers down there in the plan.
Thank you. Can we go to the decision? Okay. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand.
Daniel Kanahele, Gary Passan, Lehuanani Huddleston Hafoka. Abstaining. Kiyoki. Let me just start over. Daniel Kanahele, yes. Gary Passan, yes. Vernon Kalani Cow, yes. Kiyoki Feltzer, yes. Brian Ward, yes. Tova Callender, yes. Cody Nimmitt, yes. Mike Moran, yes. Randall Leach, yes.
And those opposed? No.
Opposed, Everett Dowling. And one abstaining. So Lehuan abstaining and Jennifer abstaining.
Okay, so motion passes. So anything else? Daniel?
Unless there's someone else inspired to make a motion before I continue.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that the South Maui CPAC have the opportunity to review the final edited version of the CPAC recommended South Maui draft plan before it is transmitted to the Maui Planning Commission. That's my motion.
Do you mean collectively, so we have a meeting? Or do you mean just distributed?
It can be distributed and we can review it. I think we should review the final edited version because there is no final edited version. So I'd like to have us so CPAC to review it before we transmit it to make sure it reflects accurately what we did here.
Which means having another meeting to make that decision?
Likely, yes.
Okay. Is there a second? Second by Mike. Okay, discussion?
I'd like to speak to the motion, Chair.
Yes.
There is no final cut. There is the plan, the October 2023 version that's on the site, right? And I looked at that, and there are some errors in it, map errors. A few maps aren't correct. And I think part of the problem is that our planning department, our long range division, has been understaffed since the beginning of this process. And we've seen turnover. I've seen planners come and go. And I believe the long range department, due to no fault of their own, and not speaking of everybody here, are stretched very thin, making it very difficult for us and the plan to, I think, maybe get the attention it needed, the time and attention it needed. I'm concerned about the maps because I know that there have been several changes in the GIS, and those who do the GIS analysis. I can't remember the right term for them, but there was one before we started, and there was one during, and now there's another one. Those are the guys that work on the maps. Those are the ones that make sure the maps are updated and accurate. So that concerns me. It also concerns me that we were shortchanged by 7 weeks because of the issue with financial disclosure statements. We lost 7 weeks because of that. So we were given a full year to complete this process, and we haven't used up our full year if you subtract the 7 weeks. We haven't had corporate counsel during most of our meetings, although we requested it. There were times when we needed help, and I appreciate Mr. Hopper for being here for the last couple of meetings. But there were times during the process we could have used the advice and guidance of corporate counsel. So I think sometimes we were just winging it. I think that we put so much time into this, 11 months, that we should at least have the time to review the complete edited version, edit it for structure, edit it for context, and edit technically, meaning the maps, to make sure it's what we decided on. That you folks and us as a group, when we made motions, that those changes are reflected in the text and reflected in the maps, that there's nothing missing, that all the TMKs that we wanted to make sure that they were that were brought up in the meeting are included in the draft plan. And some of you brought up specific TMKs. I don't remember what those are, but you do, the ones who made the motions. So it just makes sense to me that before we as a body decide to transmit this to the Maui Planning Commission, that it's accurate. And we can do that by reviewing it, by us reading it. I don't know if planning has completed all the edits to content, all the edits to the maps and technical reports. I don't know if they've done that because I know they're stretched thin. And also their focus has been shifted to West Maui. They themselves have mentioned that. Since the fires, their focus has been shifted there. So you have a limited staff and stretched thin. And so I think it behooves us as committee members to make sure that whatever we are forwarding to the Maui, transmitting to Maui Plan Commission is accurate, is correct. And like I said, I reviewed what's online and I found 2 errors in the maps. So those things need to be corrected before it gets sent out. That's my motion. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you. I support this motion. My only question for planning or for Corp Council, does this conflict with the charter?
This is Chair Michael Hopper.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if you want to take another look at the plan, my advice to you is to treat that as a motion to table, basically defer again, have planning put the revisions in the plan, and then have another meeting to review it. So that's what it sounds like this motion is intended to do. Again, you're past your deadline already, so that would increase that time. And if it's something you want to do, you can do it. Of course, if you make additional changes at the next meeting, then you'll need to see another set. What you have in front of you now with the amendments you're making today should be the final correct version of the plan. So, yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. But I would treat this particular motion as a motion to table or defer action until planning revises the plan and gets you the final version with the amendments that you made today. I mean, otherwise you can't really make a motion to approve and send it on and then also review after that, because then what if there's problems, you'd make further amendments to that. I would treat it as a motion to defer action and review the plan after the department makes the changes again. Or if there's errors, then you can have the errors pointed out today. But that's how I think the logical conclusion would be, to that motion would be to defer action again until you get that information updated to you. And again, the information you have before you should be, with the amendments you made today, should be correct information. And if it's not updated, it should be corrected. So I don't know if the department has anything to add to that, but that's how I would treat that motion.
Thank you. Discussion? Okay.
So after the draft plan is approved by council, it's going to be available to the public, right? To review? Will We Are South Maui, yeah, it's going to, but the website for this, is that going to be up and running for
The South Maui community plan, the We Are South Maui, will be available and it will be updated for the committee.
Right, as it goes along, right? Yeah.
Any discussion? Daniel, and then Brian.
All I want to do is make sure what's being forwarded or transmitted to the Maui Plan Commission is correct and accurate. And I don't believe it is. I don't believe we've had a version in front of us that has everything in it right now. I don't know. I don't think planning has had an opportunity to update it completely. The total plan from page 1 all the way to the end. Yeah, I'd like to see it before we transmit it.
Brian, and then Jen.
So, Daniel, I agree in principle and in concept, but I guess I would ask for a friendly amendment that any changes noted or errors are provided to long-range planning by a very specific date. That is then updated and communicated back out to this committee so that we have a final version and we don't come back to yet another meeting where we then start tossing out more changes and updates and we keep perpetuating and perpetuating and perpetuating. So I will support the motion, but I would require or ask that with a friendly amendment that all changes are submitted to planning by a very specific date. They will incorporate, provide then a final document before, so we just don't keep going in circles.
Jennifer?
Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Michael Hopper. Yeah. I mean, it's not. It's again. I would advise you, if you don't think the plan is correct, to defer action on the plan at this point until you get that final version. You're not going to have communications, I don't think, coming from the CPAC to make amendments. You're going to have that meeting, and then if there's errors in it, you'll come up with what the errors are. I think that's the concept. I don't think you're going to have individual members talking to the department, separately in between that time, unless I'm misunderstanding something. But I advise you to do this by deferring action and then getting a revised plan. And again, the department should, be able to tell you right now this plan should be an accurate reflection of what you have passed to date with any amendments you made today. But I don't think with the process with this motion, I wouldn't advise saying voting to adopt the plan and then making further comments. That's just, I don't think I've seen that before in a in these proceedings.
Jennifer, and then Daniel.
Just to echo what he said. So 2 questions. One, is what we have in front of us exactly what's on the website? Because that's your concern. So if this is what's in front of us, Mike Harper is saying this is the most recent, and you're saying there's mistakes on the website. So are we talking about the same? Is it apples to apples?
Some of the new pages you have in your from the recessed meetings were updates, so they incorporate the newer updates. To what Daniel said, there was an error in the mapping that was caught last week when a testifier came and said that one of his parcels shouldn't be residential and it was open space, or it should be residential and it was open space, and that was not in your motion. And it was because it was part of a list, and so that was caught. I have worked with a number of GIS analysts throughout this. I don't know.
I think the question was, do you feel like the documents we have in front of us now are correct?
The written part of the documents are correct.
Okay, then the second part of my question is, so how much time do you need to accurately produce a document that reflects everything?
Because we do have to focus on other areas as well, like West Maui, it would be beneficial to have a gap and not be expected to turn it around really fast. And I would honestly prefer Kavika or Jackie to answer these questions.
Daniel, and then Jackie.
So what Mr. Hopper is saying is correct. The idea is to come back after having reviewed the final edited version, make any corrections, but not make any new motions or add anything to it. It's just to review the document so that we feel comfortable it reflects what we've done for the last 11 months. But just corrections and technical corrections, like with the maps, things like that. That's what I think is we should give time to do that. I think it's important.
You want to comment on that, Jackie? On how much time is required?
So my question to Daniel is, you said that you found 2 errors. Were both errors fixed?
They're on the October, what's on the website, the October update?
Karen, do you know where those 2?
I mean, I just briefly went through it. I didn't thoroughly go through all the documents, but finding 2 was, in a short time, was concerning to me.
So, I mean, if they're just technical errors or grammatical things that don't need everybody to move, and I mean, we are going to proofread this, and then we do have a few English majors who are going to go through it, not to change any context, but to fix things like that. I mean, do you really need to have another meeting to go through those kind of little things
Well, I
like that?
just heard that planning needs more time to turn it around. So why did you even say that if you didn't need more time? If you're confident with the product as is, then you should say, yeah, it's good to go. But my sense is it's not good to go, and there are technical issues, and I think we as a CPAC should be able to make sure that's corrected before we transmit this to the Maui Planning Commission. And we're just asking, how much time do you need to turn it around? Do you need a week, 1 week, 2 weeks, how long?
Well, my understanding, you said there were 2 errors in the maps, and I believe they were fixed. I'm not sure what else there is that needs to be updated besides whatever changes you're making today.
I haven't reviewed the final edited version, the complete final edited version. There is going to be one, right, before it's transmitted. That's what I'd like to look at. Review that before it's transmitted. I don't think we're asking too much.
I think the question is just, will we be reviewing the same thing that's already up there, except for what we decided today? In that case, we should have already reviewed it. So the question is really, is the planning department planning to make additional changes to those things?
The only changes would be to fix errors.
Chair, this is Jamie Pa'a. I'm from remotely, if I could speak.
Go ahead.
Hi. So I manage the website, and so I just wanted to be clear. There's a draft, the October 2023 draft, that's in the section View the Draft Plan. That was uploaded to the website on October 12th. And so that is like the full draft, all the sections. And then any changes that have been made since then on all these meetings after that, we've included in the meeting materials prior to each meeting. And so if Daniel is asking, or sorry, if Vice Chair Kanahele is asking for a completed document, we don't have that on the website. It's been piecemeal based on every single meeting. I just wanted to make that clear because it seemed there was some confusion about that.
Chair, yeah, it is piecemeal. It needs to be put together, the final draft, before being transmitted.
Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the table. Those in favor? So are you accepting the recommendation from Councilor Hopper that we defer this meeting?
Chair, I just have a clarification if I can.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not advising you to do that necessarily. I'm saying that this motion sounds like it is a request for a deferral so that you can get one document with everything included in it. If you're clear what you're voting on, then that's fine, and that can be compiled. But if you want to wait to see a final version, you would be deferring until that happens. I mean, that would be the appropriate action. If you feel that you have enough information on what you are voting on, then you can adopt that and have those final things completed. But if you want to see one document, a final version, and you believe there's still errors that you need corrected, then yes, you'd wait to see that final version. But I'm not telling you should defer action. I'm saying that if you agree with the motion, rather than saying we'll adopt it and have another meeting later to review it, that's just, I don't know how that would work. I think it would be cleaner to defer if you believe you do either that you do not have a final version of a document in front of you. I'm not saying you should defer action. I want that clear. I'm not recommending that that's what you should do.
That's clear.
I'm
Thank
saying
you.
that
Thank you.
Okay.
So Daniel, what is your motion?
Yeah, to defer action until we see the final document and make any corrections if need be.
And you agree with that, Mike? Okay. Defer until we have the final document. Gary?
Just maybe a point of clarification, because there was a discussion a little earlier, and that deferral would be to review for errors and omissions, not to allow for additional motions for change.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so Brian?
So should we not, or just have those things that we identify, funnel them through our chair and have chair work with planning to, if there's a space or we forgot an apostrophe? I mean, do we really need to have that distributed and have another meeting to say, yes, a comment was put in? I mean, I would trust that our chair's going to say, okay, yes, the comment was put in. I mean, if we're not changing content, we're not changing words, we're not adding motions or changing anything, we're literally just doing a cleanup to say apostrophe here, comma there, bracket. I would say right, it's just structural changes, and then that would be my suggestion, is not to put all the work on you. But
you don't have to send it to the chair. If you notice that there's a comma missing, you could send that directly to me.
Right.
I want to review every single comma.
Because if we're not introducing changes and it's just corrections, I personally don't feel that not approving a plan because the comma's in the wrong spot or missing is relevant. If it's substance changes because you want to change motions, different. That's a different story. But from what I'm hearing is we're not looking to do that. So.
Lehua?
And I'm just assuming that if there's any recommendation for like something was incorrectly or wasn't put in and so forth, that you'll use the minutes to compare it. So I just have to share that the minutes will be used. It has to be used. So that's good to know that we would be using that.
Okay. Those in favor of the motion to defer adoption of the plan, please raise your hand.
Daniel Kanahele, Vernon Kalani-Cow, and Cody Nimmet in favor. Oh, and Mike Moran.
And those opposed?
Gary Passon, Brian Ward, Tova Callender, Jennifer Sullivan, Randall Leach, and Everett Dowling.
And I'll break the tie by voting no.
Oh, and then 2 abstaining, Kioki Feltzer and Lehu and Nani Huddleston Hafoka.
So what are the numbers?
So 4 yeses. Okay, so there's 4 who voted to defer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 voted to not defer, and Lehu and Kioki abstained.
I voted not.
You voted
Against deferring.
You voted no.
So it's 7-6. 7 no's, 6 yeses.
Yes. Okay, so that fails. Next motion then I would like to see is a motion to adopt the plan.
So moved.
Moved by Everett, and I think, so I'll take Jennifer a second. Okay. Second by Jennifer. Discussion?
Can I read the motion from the same as last? So I believe I have the motion, what I would hope that you folks, just a second, I got to find it, my notes. You folks talk a lot. I have a lot of notes here. Look how many pages. 11 pages already of notes. Just a moment. I'm going to open up the previous one. Open 44, 645.
Chair. I do have a proposed motion before you make a final motion.
Oh,
Is that
a
still
different
possible?
one.
We have a motion on the table. We need to process this first.
Okay.
So the motion is to recommend approval of transmitting the draft plan, including amendments made, to the Maui Planning Commission.
And we had a second. That was Jennifer. Discussion? Those in favor, please raise your hand.
Gary Passan, Keoki Felter, Brian Ward, Tova Callender, Jennifer Sullivan, Randall Leach, and Everett Dowling in favor.
And those opposed?
Daniel Kanahele and Mike Moran.
And with any abstentions besides me?
Vernon Kalani Cow and Lehu Anani Huddleston Hafoka, Cody Nemeth, and Jennifer Sullivan? No, okay, sorry.
No.
Oh.
This is important. Let's get this right.
So did you say the abstentions were 3, Vernon, Cody, and Lehua? Is that correct? Yes. Okay, and then the no's were Daniel and Mike? Okay, let me just do the math. I did write down the let's go over the names of them. No, I count 7 yeses plus 3 abstentions, and 2 noes and 3 abstentions. Oh, and 4. You abstained too? Okay. 4 abstentions.
Okay, so a motion passes. So we have adopted the community plan for submission to the county council. And Lua, you had something more?
It's actually too late because I was going to make a motion for a moratorium on any future development until we get our infrastructure in place. So, but I can't because you proceeded. So, well, 2 more rounds, but I wanted to make something here. So, but he said I couldn't. So, I did have something, but so
Okay.
it is what it is.
Okay. So I propose that we get together one more time, not to discuss the plan, not allowed to do that, but for lunch at Maui Brewing Company in 2 weeks from today. So lunch on Wednesday in 2 weeks. Be back then, right? Can everyone make it then? All right.
And then I just wanted to say on behalf of the planning department, well, for myself, thank you very much for your time, your dedication, your thoughts and efforts put into this, and kind of reiterate that the journey doesn't stop here. I mean, we kind of expect you guys to be involved to see this all the way through at Maui Planning Commission, County Council, so that it is an accurate reflection of the South Maui community. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a pleasure working with all of you and meeting you. Thank you. Oh, Tova.
Tova and then Daniel.
Sorry, to reverse back to business for a second. is there a deadline that would be helpful to have review? Because, I mean, I appreciate what Daniel and Mike were trying to say, is it is our responsibility to make sure we help catch anything that wasn't reflected. So is there a timeline that we should commit to try to get you any feedback?
If you could please let us know within the month of November, please. The sooner the better, because we need all the time. So, yeah, November ideally. Okay, thanks.
Daniel?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to announce the snack bar is going to close in 15 minutes. But before it does, don't forget to turn in your fluffy pillows if you have them still. And also, I just wanted to thank Chair Rob Weltman for navigating us through these channels over the last 11 months. That was yeoman's duty, so I'd like to thank Rob for holding it together. And of course, I want to thank the Planning Department, Karen and Jackie, and Jamie, Kavika, and of course, can't forget our favorite station, Kaku TV, and their volunteer staff. Mahalo nui loa to you folks for supporting us through this process. Thank you, everyone.
Is there anything else we need to do before we end the meeting? End the CPAC series of meetings?
You guys aren't over. We have you for the next 2.5 years. Thank you guys for sticking with it for the year. You just have to adjourn the meeting, and please stay involved in the Maui Planning Commission and the County Council going forward. And actually, if we could do a class photo, since we only got 11 of you guys in the last one.
You're going to take photos now?
We can do that after once we adjourn the meeting. Okay.
I want everybody to sign my name.
CPAC meeting adjourned at 8:02 p.m.